Property Patriot, you are cleared hot.
I hope you're having a great holiday weekend. Today our guest is Steve Rosenberg. Steve was once a young, ambitious airline pilot who found his wings clipped by the harsh winds of reality post 9/11. His life was completely rerouted from sky-high dreams to a furlough notice. He took a leap of faith and jumped into real estate. His journey wasn't a smooth takeoff. It was marked by betrayals, loss, and setbacks. Find out how he started, rebounded, and became a major player in the real estate market. Find out all that and more, where we provide real estate investors with the tools to achieve generational wealth. Welcome to the Aim High Podcast. I'm your host, Bud Evans. Good day, high flyers, and welcome to the Aim High Podcast. Today, I am joined by Steve Rosenberg. How are you, Steve?
I'm doing well, my man. How are you, brother?
Doing great. Listen, it would be easier for me to ask you what you don't do. You're an airline pilot, a real estate investor, project manager, professional speaker. Do me a favor. Give me a quick intro and a rundown of exactly who you are.
What I don't do is I can't slam dunk a basketball yet. So that's on the list of what I can't do. But what I do is my story of getting involved in real estate. It actually started out on 9/11. 9/11 is what propagated that. I got hired as a career airline pilot. I was 25 years old. I was the second youngest person hired. 9/11 happened, which obviously we all know was a great tragedy. 2 days after the towers fell was my day of reckoning, I guess you could say, because that was the day I was delivered a furlough notice for my safe and secure job. And I realized that as an airline pilot, without an airline and without a plane, I'm not really useful to anybody. And I didn't have any other skills. So I started looking to see what people did, and it tied into real estate. And so I didn't know anything about it. I was on the verge of losing my career. I had to tell my wife I didn't know what we were going to do because all I could do was fly a metal tube around in the sky, and nobody wanted me to do that. So I started focusing on two things. I started focusing on real estate because it seemed like people were wealthy or somehow tied to real estate. And the other thing I focused on was building businesses. And I learned from the airline pilot background, systemization, structure, checklist, emergencies, all the things we deal with as real estate investors was applicable to owning real estate. The problem was it seemed like real estate investors, the quote unquote professional real estate investor, was a little bit different than the professional airline pilot. And they played by a different set of rules. And so because of that, much to a lesson that I had to learn, I got lied to, cheated, ripped off, stolen from, but I kept getting back up. I kept learning, and I kept learning a little bit more, and I kept getting ripped off, and I learned a little bit more, and I took ownership. And eventually I started getting ripped off less. I started losing less. I started realizing the rules of the game were different, and I started playing by a different set of rules in the real estate world, started learning how to win successfully, ended up wholesaling, flipping, buying apartment complexes. Many of them I did right, and more of them I did wrong. And I learned more lessons from the wrong ones, which we can go down that rabbit hole. But that was the start of my journey into real estate. I never wanted to own real estate. I never wanted to be a speaker. All I ever really wanted to do from a little kid was be an airline pilot. And unfortunately, that I still am an airline pilot. I still fly a Boeing 777 aircraft, and I built very successful businesses with a bit of a couple detours like life happens to us, right? So that's the quick down and dirty.
Awesome. And a great story too. As far as the process and procedures, I fully can relate to that with my military background and also former law enforcement. I firmly get that. As far as the playing by different rules, you are absolutely right. I can't tell you how many GCs or subs that I've dealt with that were like, hey, I need a 50% deposit. And no.
Yeah. I love when they go, it's nothing personal. It's just business. Really? Because you just freaking ripped me off for $20,000. I'm sorry if I'm taking it a little bit personally, but shame on me for getting a little bit pissed that you took and robbed me of my money. Like, I understand the quote unquote term. It's a little bit different. And look, I get it. We all take our licks, right? We all learn our lessons. Unfortunately, I have learned in this world, I'm sure as you have, is there are two types of people. There are givers and there are takers. And unfortunately, in certain industries, there are people that prey on other people on their naivety. And I was one of those people. And I learned, and look, I would say I was able to build and scale a multi-million-dollar property management company because of my failures and because of my losses. So you know what? I thank them. I thank them for ripping me off and making me learn those lessons, because I would have never have learned those lessons had I not been in the position that at the end of the day, it was on me. I had to take ownership. I'm a big boy. I wanted to play in the sandbox, and I did not learn the rules of the game before I started playing. So I own it. That's fine. And I took it and I made a very successful business out of it in the property management real estate business. But it wasn't with some sleepless nights and some very doubtful days of wondering, should I or shouldn't I do this anymore?
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, man. You've done a lot and you've progressed through all of this different stuff, but how did you really get started? Let's talk about like your first few deals or your first deal or one that is favorite to you.
And the way I started, probably like many people that watch this, I didn't know what, the problem with real estate, or let me first say, the great thing about real estate is there are no rules. You can do whatever you want to do. You want to flip, you want to wholesale, you want to, whatever acronym you want to make that day, you can do it. The problem with real estate is there's no rules, and you don't know that you've messed up until you're out of money or getting sued or standing in front of a judge. And so I learned that I wanted to be, I'm not the smartest person in the world. I don't claim to be. I want to be around smarter people. And I've always, in the airline industry, just like in the military, we train, we practice, we have people above us training and coaching us. So I was like, oh, I'm going to get a coach. I want to get someone to teach me that's been there. So I hired a coach. He taught me how to do what was called a double escrow close, which is basically a fancy wholesale term. And I paid the guy $10,000. And he said, Steve, if you do what I say, it will work. And I'm thinking to myself, why wouldn't I? I just gave you $10,000. He didn't say anything. Within 30 days, I swear to God, I'm sitting at a closing table doing this double escrow close. And I had a phone, and I'm giving the phone to the other people, and he's telling the title company what to do, how to do it. I had no idea. All I know is I walk out of that closing company with a check for $20,000. He got 50%. And I'm like, I can't believe it. I don't even know what I just did, but I have $20,000. And I remember telling him, I said, man, this is amazing. Can we do this again? He goes, Steve, we can do this all day long. I said, you must make a lot of people very wealthy. He goes, believe it or not, you're one of the few that's actually ever gone through and done a full deal. I go, I don't understand. I said, I just did what you said. He goes, that's the problem. Most people don't do what I say. They always have a reason why something won't work. He goes, they're not doers, they're dabblers. And they always can blame and have a reason and be a victim. I'm like, I don't get it. Like, I just paid you this money, but that's how this world is. And so that was my first deal. I went on to learn my background of being an airline pilot. I was doing wholesaling, and I learned how to systematize what I did as much as humanly possible. Unfortunately, when you're doing the wholesaling and auctions, it's a job. I stopped working, the money stops coming in. But I used that money to make enough money to buy my first apartment complex. And I bought my apartment complex, and I did it with a business partner, and we did very well. We sold it, and we had a lot of cash. So my business partner says to me, hey, Steve, I got this great idea. I'm like, what is that? He goes, we should start buying some single family houses. I knew how to get them because I knew how to negotiate, flip, wholesale. I could get the properties. This is in 2007 when things were starting to crack. He's like, we see the market's turning. Why don't we just keep the properties? We can negotiate great deals. Let's keep them and turn them into rentals. Why are we making all these people money when we can keep it? I'm like, okay. He goes, I found these great deals. They're called low income, high cash flow properties. I'm like, well, what are those? He goes, we can get them really cheap, 50, 60 grand in Houston, Texas. He goes, and we can rent them for $1,000. I'm like, that is crazy. I'm like, are you sure? He goes, I swear to God, there's a ton of them. I'm like, why buy one? Let's buy as many as we can. So in a year, we buy like 20 or 25 of these things. And then we realized why people don't own low income, high cash flow properties. Tenants don't pay. Our average our average tenant time was 8 months. Our make ready costs were 3 times the amount because when tenants left, they would take parting gifts like wiring, electrical, plants, light bulbs. And every time it was a revolving door, and we were very emotionally attached. So we did what two very intelligent people, I'm an airline pilot, he's an IT professional. The most intelligent thing you could do, we did. We bought another 20 properties thinking, let's just push our way through the mountain. We're halfway through. Let's grow bigger. I swear to God, it was like putting gasoline on a bonfire, and it just exploded in our faces. And shockingly, we couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. Now, in hindsight, we're like, okay, I get it. So we have this raging fire going on. My wife tells me, if you buy another one, it better be nice because you're going to live in it because you suck at buying houses and you have a problem and you need to stop. We're losing money. We're about to go bankrupt. We're like circling the toilet. We don't know what we're going to do. We've got like 40 houses. None of them are performing. It is a shit show on fire, basically, on the front doorstep of our house. And so we decide that we are either going to sell them, we are either going to hand them over to a management company, or we're going to self-manage. It was in 2009, 2010. No one's getting a loan, so we couldn't sell them. So the next option was, okay, we can't sell them. Let's give them to a management.
Oh, I lost you. Now, hang on one second. You dropped off for a second.
Sorry, are we there?
Let's start that again with you turned them over to a management company.
So my business partner says, let me call some management companies so we can hand them over. I'm like, okay, cool. So he calls these management companies, and a week later, he calls me back. He's like, we got a problem, man. I'm like, please don't tell me we bought another house because I'm going to have to move there. He goes, nobody wants them. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, nobody wants them because there are too much problems and they'll never make money. We're stuck with them. So anyways, we end up taking them. We sat down the way investors would as a business and said, okay, let's run this correctly. Within 6 months, we kicked out 70% of our deadbeat tenants, which is emotion. It's hard to do mentally.
Yeah.
We stabilized the properties, but then we had other people approach us and asking us, could you manage our houses? And we're like, hell no. We barely fixed our problem. I don't want your problem. But we go to a business coach and we said, hey, look, we may have something here. So this guy knew nothing about real estate. He only knew business. So he goes, let me look at it. I'll call you guys back. I'll come back in a week and I'll tell you what I have. So we come back a week later and he goes, I got good news and bad news. The good news is, yes, you definitely have a business. There's marketability, there's scalability, and there's opportunity in the property management sector. The bad news is you two guys are not the smartest guys on the planet and you will be bankrupt in 6 months because you have no idea how to run a business. So we hired him on the spot. Now we have a business coach. We don't even know what we're doing. We stay with that guy for 7 years, every single week getting coached on business. We scaled that company to over 1,000 units. We built a multi-million-dollar company, 3 major cities in Texas. We're the fastest growing management company in the state of Texas. And we sold it for millions of dollars to a venture capital firm with 10,000 properties. I became a vice president for them. I started doing stuff with Bigger Pockets and all this other stuff as a VP with 10,000 doors. And the one thing everybody wanted to know is, how does an airline pilot build and scale a business the way you guys did? 60% of our company was in Mexico with virtual assistants. So we were very good at scaling and right person, right seat. But I used my knowledge and methodology of airlines and structure, systems, checklists. I'm trained by Boeing spends millions of dollars training pilots on how to deal with issues and emergencies. Airlines spend all this money systematizing. I fly a $250 million aircraft around, a Boeing 777. I'm like, okay, we can figure this out. And so that's what I do now is I help people scale whatever they do, whether it's one rental property, a syndication, commercial roofing, to understand that all businesses can run without you through systems, procedures, and automation. Normally, we are the problem. We are the reason it doesn't do it. So that's my story.
And it's fantastic, man. Listen, I enjoy the journey. Like, you just took me through this whole myriad of different things and an emotional roller coaster. And it's coincidentally, I'm actually vertically integrating my property management right now. So everything that you're saying, is just sparking more and more thought process through me.
Yeah.
So now we've gone through all of the processes in your first rental property and your worst rental property and standing up the property management company. But what are you doing now?
So now what I'm doing is I travel the world speaking, coaching. I do high-level coaching, mid-level, lower-level coaching. And what I do is I want to show people, look, I think we go through phases in our life. High school's a phase, college is a phase, military. I love being an airline pilot because I do it because I want to, not because I have to, number one. And a lot of times we get into real estate or we get into some business because we want more time and freedom. And we find that's the one thing we don't really have. We don't get time or freedom. So what we're doing is not working for the majority of people. And I don't think what we're doing is really for time and freedom. It's the time and freedom gives us the ability to buy memories. And what we're really doing in life is we're buying memories. We're not buying time. We're not buying freedom because that's not tangible. It's memories. And so what I try to teach people is how to create memories in their life and use the assets like real estate and business to run on systems and procedures so that they can have and enjoy the life to buy the memories. And so I coach people, I work with people, small businesses one-on-one to very large businesses, to show them, look, that we all have the same challenges. It's between our ears normally. We think that we're the most important person in the room. We think working hard is the way to be successful, but we all know that success is not tied to hard work, because if that was the case, construction workers and day laborers, they would be the wealthiest people on the planet, but they're not. Yeah. It's the people that know leverage and systems and having things run without them. So that's what I show people now.
That's awesome. I just had that conversation. We do a Friday Not News Network, and we were just talking about networking and how I've made more money through my network than I ever made on my own.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I've got a good friend. His name is Bradley. And he used to always say, the more hands you shake, the more money you make. Your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer. I use the word Rolodex. I'm at a conference right now speaking. And what's funny is I told someone, I'm like, yeah, it's all about your Rolodex. And the girl said, your what?
What?
And I'm like, your Rolodex. And I said, your contacts in your phone. She's like, oh, I'm thinking, oh my God, we don't even this anymore. I'm getting old.
I hear you, man. I was just on a call the other day where my phone now is my business card, and I just go boop, and I tap somebody else's phone and it drops all of my information onto the other person's phone, and all they got to do is push a button, and now it's saved, and it goes right to my CRM.
Yeah,
the technology is fantastic. We were talking about business cards.
Yeah. Yeah, business cards. I know, right? Here, take my digital business card. You're what? Yeah. So again, I think that I think all of us, I think you, me, all of us, I think we're on a journey.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're going to a destination. I think one of the mistakes that a lot of people make is they feel that they're trying to do this to a destination, but unfortunately that destination never exists. And the reason I know that is I thought when I sold my business for millions of dollars, I was reaching a destination. And let's say that was a Friday. And Friday afternoon, you go out for drinks, everyone's patting you on the back, congratulations. Monday morning, my wife is like, hey, the trash has to go out. And I'm like, honey, we just sold our business. We don't need to do that. No, you still got to take the trash out. Yeah. And what I realized is nobody cares. You know what I mean? Nobody cares about your wins. Nobody cares about your losses. You have to do it for your journey. There is no destination. And so I think we get caught up thinking one day. And unfortunately, sometimes that one day never comes. And so we miss out the opportunity of enjoying the journey and enjoying the memories that we're creating along the way.
Yeah. It's funny. One day I'm in the military, then I was not in the military, and I was a millionaire, and I'm looking and the dog is still peeing on my lawn. Dog peeing on my lawn when I was a major, and the dog's peeing on my lawn now. Nothing has changed except me.
It doesn't change. It doesn't change. And I've learned, for your listeners, and I'm sure you've learned this, the amount of zeros in your bank account don't mean anything. It does not mean a thing. It's irrelevant. And so my suggestion for people watching is don't let some fictitious number that you never even see decide your decisions in life, and your fear of doing something and not doing something, or making a decision or not making a decision based on some ambiguous zero that's sitting in a bank account that you'll never see. Because it doesn't matter and nobody cares. You got to do with what you want to do, build the life you want to build, create the memories you want to have because you want to do it, not because you have to do it.
Yeah, man. What is important, what the memory that I take away is that I was able to take my wife to Greece, through Greece. We took a cruise for 21 days, and I have a real nice picture of her standing with the wind blowing through her hair while she's overlooking the blue domes in Santorini. Nice. Yeah. It wasn't the money that was important. It was that moment.
Yeah. The money gave you the ability to buy that memory. And so when I coach people, I have different coaching levels that I do, but when I coach people, one of the things I make them do is create a bank account called the memory bank account. And so let's say, for example, in January, you sit down with your family and you say, okay, family, what memories do we want to buy this year? We want to go to Greece. We want to go to the beach. We want to decide what is that all going to cost? Okay, it's going to cost us $30,000 to do everything. Okay, that's how much we need to set aside and allocate in our memory fund. And so if you don't intentionally do something, it goes into the someday file, which we all know never happens. We never do the someday. And so I tell people, if you're not doing it intentionally, just say, it's just not important to me to take my family on vacation. Tell me that. And let's call it what it is. It's just not important for me to have memories with my family. Because if it was, you'd do it already. And so it really hits home when you have to say that. I did a session with some military guys, some spec op guys, and they said that, like, if you're not going to do it, just say, it's not important to spend time with my kids today. So I'm going to work and I'm going to spend time at work, not with my kids. That really drives home when you say something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I missed 7.5 years of my son's life. I'm chomping at the bit for reasons to hang out with him. He's married now, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. But you know what we did have? I coached his hockey team, and then he was my assistant coach. I coached hockey for over 20 years, and we got to spend those years together, except for that 7.5. But
nice.
Man, what do you got coming up?
I have an event coming up in July. It's a 2-day takeoff business summit. It's in Denver, Colorado. And during these 2 days, what I do is I take your business. It's a very small, select group. I only allow 20 people there at tops. And what I do is we take your business. First thing we do is we create a business plan. I use the analogy of flying, right? A lot because I'm a pilot. But I tell people, if I said, hey, bud, tomorrow, let's just go to the airport. Not sure. Let's just pick a plane at random. Let's jump in it. And then I don't even know if I could fly it. Let's take off. And then let's figure out where we're going to go. Maybe Hawaii, maybe London, maybe LA. I'm not sure. Let's just give it a whirl. I don't know what the weather is. I don't know the destination. I don't even know how much fuel we have. Right. Probably wouldn't or shouldn't get on that plane with me.
Probably.
But how many people start a business that way? They don't have a destination. They don't have a business plan. They don't know where they're going. They've got a good gut feeling that it's a good idea. So the first thing I do with people is I create a business plan with them. Then what we do is we go through the fundamentals of owning a business. Number one, what are the top 25 marketing mistakes that are currently putting businesses out of business? Then I go into communication, which is sales, of disc profiling, understanding how to communicate and how to have scripts that effectively close clients. Then we go into the operations and systemization of your business. Every business has about 8 to 11 systems. So we go into the systemization of your business. I show you how to create the most important systems to make your business run without you. Then we go into key performance indicators, KPIs, the scorecard to see how is your business doing. And then from there, I start discussing leadership. Why are leaders failing businesses? And then more importantly, why are businesses failing? Because of poor direction and poor guidance and poor leadership. And then I show them how to scale with virtual assistants, what a virtual assistant could do for you, all the things. And last but not least, the beautiful partnership conversation. Why do 70% of all partnerships end up in lawsuit or dissolution? So this is 2 days. It is jam. And it's not me standing and talking. These are workshops. You're working. You're creating your business plan. You're creating your systems. You're going through and saying, what am I doing wrong in my marketing? Even if you have one property, it's like hockey. I'm trying to build it to where that business is going to be. Skate to where the puck's going to be, not where it's at, right? Same thing in this 2 day. I'm showing you how to build the business to what it's going to be. One of the things I always ask people is, what is the sale date of your business? The reason you need to have a sale date is not to sell it, but it is not a saleable asset that can run without you. And if you are involved in your business and you have to be there every day, you don't own a business, you own a job.
Yeah.
Learn how to own a business that runs without you so that you can go live your life and create those memories. And so that's what I show people.
That's awesome, man. Now, you've gone through a lot. You've done a lot. Now you're teaching other people how to do it. But I got to ask you a question. What is one thing that you took away as you increased your wealth?
Man, can I get personal for a second?
Absolutely.
So one thing I've learned, and I talk a lot about giving back and being selfless. And I've always talked about being selfless, where we do all these things for our family. We go to conferences, we read books, we do these podcast shows. We do it for our loved ones, but we never actually show our loved ones what we're doing or why we're doing it. I had a tragedy 3 months ago. I lost my 19-year-old son in a motorcycle accident. The sad part is that he was 19. He didn't do anything wrong. He was riding a motorcycle. He and I rode motorcycles together. I loved it. I loved the time. The memories I had with my son were free. Didn't cost me anything. I'd ride. He'd be riding next to me. I'm like your son playing hockey.
Yeah.
That kid traveled to 19 countries, dove with sharks, bungee jumped in New Zealand, had a rental property at 14 years old. And I really embraced the fact that I did everything I could to give my son the life that I always wanted. And I really was trying to be as selfless as I could. The thing that I learned and what I'd like to say is that don't wait for the one day, thinking one day I'm going to have time, because unfortunately, my wife and I, when you get a knock on the door at 10:30 at night and they tell you your son passed away, it's too late. And the reason I bring this up is not to bring anything down, but I'm so glad that I spent the time being with my son and being able to enjoy. I didn't know that he had 19 years on this earth. I didn't know that. We don't know what date that date's going to come. I don't think anything happens by chance. I don't think there's a reason that he passed away, but it happened. It was an accident, and it's a very sad accident, and it's very heartbreaking. But what I've learned is you have to enjoy the journey. And as a parent, we always think it's our job to teach our children. We think it's our job to get our children to be better people, to be responsible. And after he passed away, I thought maybe he was here to show me how to enjoy the ride a little bit more, how to enjoy. We never think of our kids teaching us, but I honestly think that he was teaching me how to enjoy life a little bit more, because he enjoyed life. And so the one thing I've learned in accumulating wealth is that you've got to share it. You don't wait for one day, because if you're waiting for one day and you get that knock on the door or that phone call, the memories stop at that moment. They're done. And I don't wish that upon anyone, because it is a horrible feeling. So that's my answer.
Yeah. And a great point. I've unfortunately been on the other side of that door knocking on it. And
yeah, I'm sure.
Very sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, I use the loss of my son as something that will help other people. And so my thing is, a lot of people tell me, oh, I can't, you're very brave, very strong. I'm like, I'm not. I'm trying to let you know that I'm glad that I had the memories. I'm so happy that I didn't say one day. And now when I'm 55 years old is when I was going to do all this stuff. And those days never came.
Thank you for sharing that. That's hopefully going to bring somebody a lot of knowledge and a lot of value.
You're welcome.
Are you a veteran or a first responder looking to get into real estate, struggling with not knowing how to start, or afraid to get started, or worse? You're listening to the world lie and tell you that a 401k is all you're going to need when you're ready to retire. Well, go ahead and give me a follow on Instagram at bud.evans, where I show my followers how to overcome the fear and knowledge barriers and get to their financial freedom through rental properties. Follow at bud.evans on Instagram for more. Steve, we are going to pick it back up a little bit and go into the Soaring 4. Because we're here to help other people and the amount of value that you've already provided, we're here to ask you 4 questions that may help someone who is just starting out achieve new heights.
Yeah.
All right. So what is one thing that you use to keep you motivated?
I always want to be a better version of myself from the day before. So I want to be my future self every day. So I am a very hard-driven, hard-charging person. I use consistency of who I want to become every day. And I think every day we wake up, we have a choice to make. I'm either going to be better than yesterday or I'm going to be worse. Every day. And every day I wake up and I make that decision, I am going to be better. I'm not going to let life, I'm not going to let circumstances, I'm not going to let it beat me. So I think to me, it's consistency and it's trying to be a better version of myself every day.
Excellent. Now, I would ask you, what is one thing that you learned that changed your mindset? But I'm pretty sure we already went down that path.
Yeah.
So let's just move on. And what are tools that you use to keep you on track?
One huge thing that I use is scaling with leverage. I have a virtual assistant. She is my executive assistant. She handles my life. She runs my calendar. I use a calendar. I'm very strict with my calendar, conversations, appointments, all these things, but I use other people to help leverage. So I'm a big believer in leveraging. I think a virtual assistant as an executive assistant for me, scheduling my flights, my hotels, my everything. I think it's essential. If you want to grow and scale, you've got to do it by leveraging people, systems, knowledge, and structure. And for me, a virtual assistant is one of the best ways to do it.
Yep, I fully agree. I have Ron, and I'm going to say it again, and has said it on many a podcast and many a speaking engagement. Everybody needs a Ron. So
It's funny. I have a Daniela, and my wife even says, don't piss her off because I will not do the things that she does for you. So you better make sure you keep her.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then the last question is, if you had to start all over again, what is one thing that you would change?
I would have failed bigger, faster.
Oh, great.
I would have been more all in and not let that Chicken Little inside of me talk me out of doing certain things. So I would have pushed chips all in a lot sooner had I known, because we're all going to fail. Listen, on this journey, you're going to fail. I'm going to fail. We're never done failing. I failed probably bigger than most people have ever succeeded, and that's okay. So my suggestion to people is fail fast and get back up and hit it again. Fail and hit it again. All you're doing is you're learning what not to do and how to fix things.
That's awesome. All right. Steve, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, how would they do that?
Yeah. They can find me on any social media platform, and it's Steve Rosenberg, Rozenberg. If they want to go to my website, which is steverosenberg.com, there they can see all of the events. I do these 2-day events all over the country. Every month I'm doing them. So all they got to do is they can go there and go to the events section. I've got podcasts. I've got, you name it, I do it. Instagram. If you want to see some cool places that I fly to and travel all the time, you can do that. But I'm very accessible. If people message me, I will answer you. It is me. But I just a big believer, if somebody takes the time to contact me, it's respectful to answer them back. So I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah. And I do appreciate that, because that's how we got you on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So thank you for that. And all right. Well, listen, I thank you for your time. I know you're busy. What are you in a hotel room right now?
I am. I'm actually speaking at the MF FinCon in Charlotte, North Carolina right now.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Again, thank you very much. I cannot thank you enough. And I appreciate your value and the wisdom that you shared. Do you have any parting words?
No, I just thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I hope all the listeners got something out of this. And, if you got anything out of this, it's take action. I would say the one thing that people ask me, what is the difference between me today and me after 9/11? The only difference is I took massive action and I did not let fear stop me from moving forward. I wish I took more, but I still took massive action. And that's the only thing that's going to change you to become a better version of yourself, is massive action.
Outstanding. All right. If you're listening on the podcast or watching on YouTube, until the next time we meet, I'm Bud Evans saying, aim high.